I built a combat robot shaped like a taco, and yesterday I took it to Longmont, Colorado for the Angry Vehicle competition. This was an opportunity to see how the taco's weird drive layout behaved before scaling it up to 250 pounds. The beginning of my bracket had favorable matchups against control bots and wedges, so I'm going to breeze through some of those fights. Against Shortstop, I spend the whole first half of the match just shoved up against the wall. He's winning the control game. He has no weapons, so that's how he has to win. But I'm just not able to get the weapon side around him. And as we're going back and forth, I'm also noticing a design flaw. I had ground the weapon to be perfectly in line with the floor, but this floor is so beat up that it's catching, and that's keeping me from getting the spinner up to the full speed. Eventually though, I am able to take one of his forks off, which really helps. And by this point, I'm starting to kind of figure out how to control this thing. It definitely rotates in a very odd way compared to a normal four-wheel drive, but it does in fact rotate, and I just have to get used to how to drive it. And then here, I finally get some good hits in on the backside. And after those hits, a couple of his wheels aren't working, so he still has drive, but it's a lot slower. He almost gets counted out by being stuck on the floor for a little bit, ends up moving again, and then we end up against the far wall. Because he keeps starting and stopping, I decide not to wait for a countdown. We go all the way to the end, but at the end it looks like the drive is pretty much shot. He's not able to drive back to the starting corner.
We got 2, 1, 0, that's it!
I cannot believe it actually burst.
For the next match, I face the winner of these two pusher bots. Neither of them I want to fight, given that the taco has no ground game. 3DVB ends up winning, and I end up trying to figure out how to add a front fork to the taco. I settle on this little needle thing, which I'm just barely able to get underweight. Hopefully it is enough.
Taco Tuesday has the most bizarre method of locomotion I've ever seen. Just kind of rocks back and forth like a boat.
And hey, the needle works, at least when it's perfectly lined up.
Got a very unique drivetrain. Never really seen it before. High centered on the floor seam.
Do you want me to get you off? Sure. All right.
One of the early hits knocked one of his treads off and kind of broke the left side drive, so he's stuck on the floor seam. I free him, but even after freeing him, he's still having trouble with locomotion, and eventually there's a hit that just flips him like this. Normally he'd be able to reverse and get off of this position, but with the drive broken, he's kind of just stuck there. And another win for the taco.
Yep, let's call it for the Taco Tuesday.
No damage yet, but the bracket has been easy. Now it's going to get hard. Dizzy and Spinook are fighting, both of which are highly destructive robots, and I don't want to fight either of them, but I have to face the winner of this match. And somehow, Spinook manages to remain upright-ish long enough to win this fight. So I have to face this full-body spinner, and this time, unlike in Illinois, I do not have a trap door to help me.
3, 2, 1, fight.
It's also worth noting that Camden has been driving full-body spinners for like years and years now, and so this design is really refined, and his driving is excellent for such a hard-to-control robot. Luckily, the weeble wobble, like self-righting thing of the taco seems to be working.
I think it's magnet powered.
And this hit takes half the shell off. I think in the future, the shell needs to be a single piece wrapped all the way around the chassis. I only have 2 pieces left and right, and that means I've just got this dangly flap now.
Spinook gives him a self-right, but Looks like Taco Tuesday.
And at this point, I figure it's dead, but the vibration of the weapon actually starts to like vibrate it back onto the main wheel, and I'm able to just start to get grip, and then
The taco shell has split. I hate when that happens. You get taco juice all over your hand. He's back at it though. 2 minutes left.
And man, I can't believe that both the weapon and the self-righting thing is still working after this much damage.
Taco Tuesday still.
And then a lot of energy gets released here. Both of us are broken,
Just mass destruction.
but he's upside down.
Do it. I think he's stuck. And Taco Tuesday is just gonna go give him give him a butt slap.
Oh, I have it.
Oh, yeah.
I had it.
Oh, there it is, Pinocchio.
Come on.
All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
And with that, it's a very lucky win for the taco, and it's time to see the damage.
Your janky bots are breaking mine, and I don't like it.
But what cheered?
These motors slid out,
Yeah.
and it pulled the back end of the N20 off.
Oh, so I hit the weapon so hard it broke your drive.
Yeah, my drive pulled out.
And man, in the build video I mentioned I went with foaming PLA just because I wanted to try a new material. That was a mistake. But I've got to rebuild because somehow I'm in the finals of the winner's bracket and my next fight is against Fission. Luckily hot glue exists, so now it's good as new. And by good as new, I mean none of the controls are behaving as they usually do. Everything is a little bit off. I wonder why.
3, 2, 1, break. Hey, Casey. Casey Kings. Casey.
You hear the driver of Fission mention it's so round I can't hit anything, and that seems to be the advantage of the taco versus verts. It just kind of bounces away instead of getting a good bite. And the driver mentioned later after this fight just how weird it was to try to fight this thing. You can see when it turns, the pivot point is up front, so the whole body swings out of the way. But the issue where the weapon's grabbing the floor is just still plaguing me. And it's at this moment that I realized that when I rebuilt this thing and added like hot glue everywhere, I reweighed it, but I didn't recheck if the self-righting works. And that was a mistake. Luckily he's nice and frees me.
Vision gives him a break. Halfway through.
Oh no, I think you got my weapon. Oh no, never mind.
One minute.
And man, I am sorry to the event coordinators about the floor. Just like 2 or 3 millimeters higher for the pivot point of the weapon, and it wouldn't be bouncing off the ground. I'd actually be able to get the weapon up to full speed. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
We're going to be looking for royal pudding and fragments. Chinook and Luftfaust. Void and Project Dankness. The pressure is on. 20 seconds left.
I think it's safe to say that the taco is not currently impressing the judges.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
And man, this just drags out to the end. I do get a final hit in that might have made him immobile against the wall. Wasn't really sure because the match was over and we just took our bots out. Either way, it rightly goes to Fission for the judge's decision. I'm just happy that it made it all the way through that match. And that somehow the hot glued together PLA still supported the weapon and the weapon managed to last the whole match as well. So now I move down to the losers bracket, losers round 7, where, oh my god, I have to face Spinook again. But I want to look good when I drive into the meat grinder, so I rebuild the shell with this yellow foam.
3, 2, 1, fight, robots!
Fighting at the edge of the losers bracket is always interesting because the robots are always just cobbled together on their last legs, and you can tell by the way that Spinook is moving and like the off-center wobble of the shell that he's in only a little bit better shape than the taco is.
Got a lot of lettuce in it. As the event's going on, it's adding more and more lettuce. Let's see, can they make contact? Ooh.
Fighting Spinook really is like repeatedly driving your robot into a lawnmower blade. And that hit knocks the weapon off. It was only hot glued on after all, and that weapon's now dragging on the floor, so it's really hard to drive.
We got a spicy taco.
There we go.
But it keeps on shrugging. Ooh.
And at this point, wow, is it a repeat? Could I be winning the losers bracket? No, he lands right side up.
The taco, the next strikes. Good hits. Uh-oh. The front fell off. Just smack it with the stump. Just throw it in there.
I'm regretting now the aesthetic mods I did with that adhesive foam because it is stuck to my weapon and now I'm dragging it around.
We got a taco blowout here. You always got to get the second tortilla. Second tortilla is what really helps to keep the filling in. All right, we got 50 seconds. Let's see, can Spinook make contact? Oh! Oh no! The taco's on the ground! Filling side down. Alright, we're gonna count them out at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it. Nice job.
So congrats to Spinook, good knockout. He ends up going against Fission, where the electronics of Spinook immediately fail, and Fission takes the tournament. So out of 24 competitors, Taco only lost to the top 2 and made it to 3rd somehow. And I've definitely learned a lot about this design, things that I need to be careful of going forward, and design improvements I can make for future iterations. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave you now with what I thought was the most exciting match of the night. Disco Godfather versus Friend Zone. 3-pound bots sure do hit hard.
Ooh, the head came right off. do we have movement? And we have a tie.